Okay. Ugh. Fuck yeah. Oh, I like this. This is maybe one of my favourite sets.
It actually feels like a set.
It does, doesn't it? Well, I don't know. Like, I was thinking about how to introduce this, and it's always nice, or I found it surprisingly nice to interview people that have more or less always been in my life.
Yeah.
We've never been, I would say, the closest of friends, but you've always been a friend that's, I
met you at 13.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we both have been kind of staggered across, but, like, always there.
Always there. And I would never have, I imagine we've never, or I certainly don't know the ins and outs of your story. You know what tipped me off? So I want to interview Brooks.
Yeah.
Is the other time at TED's, where you mentioned the whole Camino with your dad. I was like, I just thought, it kind of buzzed me out. I was like, hang on. I've always known Brooks.
Yeah.
You know, only child with his mum. I never even thought about that whole side of your story.
Yeah, okay.
I'm like, okay, if that's a thing to whatever degree it is, there's going to be all sorts of other stuff to explore. And
yeah, that was a big thing for me. So, context was when my mum and dad split, he kind of mulled around as a depressed divorcee for a while and then was like, you know what, let's change my life. I don't like this path. And then walked over 1,000 Ks along the Camino pilgrimage and came back totally different person.
Really?
Yeah.
How old were you at this point?
I was 12 when he did it. So, yeah, like before he left, he'd been a aged care hospital company CEO. Super high stress, short fuse guy.
And what an industry as well.
Yeah,
I don't know if the CEO's kind of role is the same more or less in everything, but that is
No. The hospital sector and the medical sector was different. So he'd been with that company, got hired just in 2000. They were on the verge of bankruptcy. And then he was the fixer and then reinstated the company into financial success. And then was like, you know what? It's all going to go down here from now. I might as well get out while it's good. So we did. But like, short fuse guy, he's got a heart condition. So he's never really been able to exercise. So he was a bit on the heavy side. And then came back, lost like 50 kilos.
From that walk?
From that walk. Because he's got a pacemaker, he can only go get a certain heart rate up before it's like, oh, you're going into cardiac arrest. Let's defibrillate you while you're walking. So he had to take it easy. But yeah, came back a really mellowed out guy. Ended up meeting this woman while I was on the walk. She's now my stepmom. I got now a little brother who's 15 years younger because of it.
Wow.
So it all started there. And then, like naturally, like he started another family while I was in my teenage years. And so I naturally kind of felt that gap. So for me, doing the Camino with him was this kind of full circle moment of let's close that loop, tie it off, start fresh, new adult relationship. And that's what it was.
So you already have done this? Because I must have confused the timeline. I thought that was coming up.
No, I'd just come back.
Okay.
I'd just come back. So, yeah.
Mad. Okay.
Well, definitely worth it.
If we met each other at 13, as you said, and this whole thing started when you were 12, I guess I'm curious to, and I don't know how much you want to unpack, if it's peeling off scab wounds and all sorts of stuff, but what was your, I'll specify it a bit. What was your experience of MGS as a school? Because I, for whatever reason, have almost purely good memories of that place and that system and all the stuff. But having left school, I remember Felix, for instance, which is one of the more popular episodes because he's definitely a divisive figure. And other characters since as well have said how different their experience of that kind of setup was.
Yeah. So all my family is from New South Wales. So for me, I went through the ringer of, first of all, getting in.
Getting in?
Getting into the school.
Oh, how do you get in?
you're 11 years old and they sit you down and put you through 5 entrance exams.
What?
You're 11, so most of the time you've never done a test longer than 60 to 90 minutes. And you're doing back-to-back, multi-hour exams.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you have any recall memory of?
Yeah, I was nervous as fuck.
And had your parents or your parents, mum, put some pressure on that? Like,
My parents were very accepting of like, okay, we want you to grow up into whoever you grow up to be. So they never really put academic pressure to perform at that age. But there was always this like background kind of understanding that as they were both the first in their families to get a tertiary education, that school is school, but to get a degree is the most important thing of your young adulthood. So there wasn't any pressure at like 11, 15, 18. It was more the like, you'll do well enough to go into uni and get a tertiary education and like continue that legacy of being educated, because they really wanted to like, particularly my dad came from a very blue collar family, and he would always refer to his own side of the family as the wrong side of the tracks.
really?
Yeah.
And he's had, I imagine, this real rags to riches story from that to CEO. Like,
Yeah, exactly. So like, he's had that story, and like both my parents kind of embodied that. So they were like, it's okay, the pressure's not on, be a kid when you're at school, but like, don't waste it, because this is a very fucking expensive school. So I got in and I was like, you know what, this took a lot of effort, it's very expensive, don't take anything for granted, and take every opportunity that you can squeeze out of this institution. And I did.
get into Latin, do rowing, all the things you can't do anywhere else.
Yeah, like I was hitting every department's extracurriculars. I was doing stuff backstage in theatre. I was doing stuff, starting clubs in the art department. I was in the orchestra. I was in the rowing team. I was in multiple sports things. Like, I was really trying to get my bang for buck.
Because even, sorry to interrupt, but even as a teenager, I was so not thinking along the... I happened to have joined you for maybe half of that stuff, but never in my head. I remember Dan Blunt saying how he was kind of gaming the system to get into Harvard or whatever, but...
I was gaming the system to get experiences that I couldn't afford once I left high school.
So cool.
So he was wanting to get into Harvard so he could do those things. I was doing all those things because Harvard and MGS both supplied them.
Yeah, this might as well be Harvard. And this
Yeah, in many ways, like, but for me, the culture of the school, yes, of course, facilitated all these awesome opportunities. The kids are still dickheads. And I didn't enjoy many, many aspects of the school, but I was able to use my grounding and self-assuredness to be able to say, like, I don't really care what you think. So I have a lot of shitty memories of school, but I also remember not a lot of it affecting me because I chose to focus on something else.
Do you, just for the purpose of painting a picture, do you have any images that are somewhat imprinted? Not that they, as you say, affected you too much, but they just kind of paint the picture of what that environment was like?
Well, like, okay, this is more of a funny story. This is final year. It's not early days of high school. This is like final year. Naturally, I've been who I am. I've got my own reputation, whatever. People perceive me how they perceive me. But unlike those early years, the younger kids that you don't know and you don't give a fuck about, they perceive you as well as like, wow, big kid. So because of how I portrayed myself, I had an entire grade level think I was one of the only gay people at school.
What?
And they, like, the entire grade level, so about 200 kids who I'd never talked to were all like, that one's one of the gay guys. There's only maybe 2 or 3.
One of the gays.
One of the gays.
Because I remember you were dressed somewhat eccentrically.
Yeah, exactly.
Scarves going on.
Yeah, or maybe I'd talk a certain way, present a certain way. And like when you deal with kids from 13 to 15, when calling stuff gay was normalized, being like, oh, I've got too much homework, that's gay as fuck.
Yeah.
I just leaned in to that by being the one who wasn't bothered. Like, okay, if you think it's so gay, why are you so insecure about it? Are you projecting? Are you reading into your own insecurity? So I didn't let it affect me because I flipped the script.
How would that come out though? I'm just imagining some 15-year-old snivelly kid in the hallway like, oh, it's so gay. Like,
well, like it starts, like I'm talking about the little kids, but like started in our year level. And then it just
kind of... In year 12, did they not see your smoking hot girlfriend?
The people who knew me. The people who didn't made assumptions. And like, that's fine. That's water off a duck's back.
Mad. Because I do definitely remember, I was trying to, you asked me how I prepare for things like this. And I just spent as long as I could muster trying to think about you and where my curiosities lie. And I definitely distinctly remember, because we rode in year 10 together. I have recall, and again, it might be wrong or it might be alternate perspective, but I also feel like you didn't have, there's maybe what's the term for it? Like a good and bad, a love-hate relationship with rowing itself as well, because that is kind of almost the epitome of that all boys macho environment.
At the end of the day, everything I did at Melbourne Grammar was just to participate and like have a go at it and have whatever fun I could have along the way. I wasn't trying to be the next one to get a scholarship into Brown or Yale. So for me, your rowing wasn't a layup. It was an experience. And I wasn't there to perform to be the next Olympian. I was the one that just wanted to be on the water. And
there's not a lot of room for that.
There's not a lot of room for that, but at the end of the day, if you're in the B crew, if you're in the second team, there's a little bit less pressure. And so I was comfortable there. And also, I think I can only acknowledge it in hindsight now, but despite me saying that like, oh, I just wanted to be on the water, if you're around people long enough, you want to perform at the standard they are. You don't want to let a team down in the same way that you don't want to let yourself down. So when it was like, okay, ergo sessions, it's all about performance, it's all about killing yourself and like getting it off and knowing you didn't have anything in the tank, self-worth came into play. I'd never considered self-worth as a teenager in the same way that most people don't figure out what anxiety feels like. I had a bit of that. So rowing, for me, it's all fun memories, but in the moment it was like, oh God, I'd be sitting in fifth period being like, I'm gonna be absolutely spent and on the urge of like physical exhaustion and the closest feeling to death I've got.
And
I'm not looking forward to this.
Heavily invested in that being a game you're actively wanting to play. If it's more like, oh, this is just the thing I need to go through to access having a fun time on the water, that's hard.
And at the end of the day, that's not the only thing I did. So like at the end of rowing, before I got taken out by my accident, because I like physically couldn't do it afterwards, which is why I dropped out. I was thinking like, okay, so I'm in fifth period, I've got an erg session after this. After that, I've got Taekwondo training. Tomorrow morning at 5 a.m, I've got a rowing gym session. Then I got to get to class. And then after school, I've got orchestra and another Taekwondo session. And then I'm on the water at 5 a.m. Saturday morning. And so I'm like constantly thinking days ahead, sessions ahead. At one point, I realized I was doing around 50 hours a week of high level performance training between all the sports I did, because rowing at school was going at least states
It's like 30 hours a week minimum.
30 hours a week there. I was on the national Taekwondo team,
Far out.
competing all the time for that, and nearly international. I was also sailing at a national level.
What? See, that kind of stuff, because it was outside of school, I vaguely remember you might have been
And then
done Taekwondo. In my head, you're just nothing, like, who cares?
Yeah, exactly. And then I'm also going on international orchestra tours.
What?
And then I'll do a little bit of community service work on top of that. I look at how I lived as a teenager. I can't do that now.
Nah.
I was spread too thin.
I think about that. I remember distinctly term 1 of year 12 being the ones, thank God not as a rower, but it's still just participation and brain energy. And, you know, trying to not drop marks in stats.
And you're not there.
And then have a girlfriend and then everything. I'm like, I remember distinctly just running off average 4 to 5 hours of sleep. And as you say, kind of performing highly academically plus physically. I'm like, who was that person? Now that I think back at it, and as you say it now, I guess if anything else, that's the point of those schools, because they're trying to make this corporate athlete. And it's either going to make you or break you. It's either going to realize at 18 that I don't want to have anything to do with the corporate world.
Yes, which
is perfect.
What happened to me.
But that's kind of perfect, right? Because at least I don't have to spend 10 years in the corporate world, make my way to the top, to then live that lifestyle and realize it's not for me.
100%.
I can live it as a teenager and realize it's not for me. Or I can have the biggest run-up ever. Far out, that's actually...
It's a fun context point to bring it back to that kind of question, because I don't think about how that's formed me, but it has. So it's fun to go back and reminisce on that.
Yeah, I never think about school. Almost ever.
No, me either.
Yeah. Okay, so let's keep on running through the timeline, because you mentioned this accident. And I had that in my notes, so I remember that.
Yeah, so for me, that's where
What is the detail of that?
I consider that's where my adulthood started.
Mad.
Um,
When,
so-
age, time? It's just over here, I think, right?
Yeah, so it's just around the corner. I was 17. It's the day before exams, end of year 11. I'm coming back from a rowing gym session in the morning. I'm riding my bike home. It's raining. I'm going down the hill, like I'm 200 meters from my front door. Enter roundabout, first entry, laundry truck coming through.
So from the right,
No, from the left.
from the left.
Yeah, so it's like I'm coming in straight, it comes in hot.
You have
from the
right
left.
away, but this is a
I have
fucking
right
truck.
away, but it's a truck, and they don't see me. And I'm like, okay, this is clearly going to be some kind of collision. Let's kind of navigate what I can. So I try and dodge, tires slip out because it's wet and raining. Bike goes, I'm skidding on the ground. Truck's already in front of me, so I'm not getting T-boned. I'm not getting hit directly.
So it's already made the turn, and you're facing the back of it.
No, so I'm facing the side.
Okay.
2 wheels.
Oh, so you're not getting hit from its front.
I'm not getting hit by the front. I'm not getting cleared up like that. So I'm sliding in on the ground. It's in front of me, but not by much. I slot the gap in between its 2 wheels.
What?
My head is about to get run over.
By the back wheels?
By the back wheels of a 10-ton truck. The axle under the truck catches me under my shoulder blade and then flips me 90 degrees, so I'm parallel with the wheels now. It's not my head getting hit.
Okay. So you're now going with the...
So my head is now the same direction as the cabin of the truck.
Yeah.
And from there, my legs lined up parallel with the truck. And basically from just below my hip bone to my ankle, it runs parallel all the way down.
The axle of the truck or something?
No, the back wheel.
Oh, so the back wheel basically...
Full 10-ton weight from here to there.
Over the whole leg or half the leg or?
So running down along. I got no idea at this point.
Right, so okay, sorry to break
No,
this
no,
down,
you
but-
need the spatial map.
So you're kind of sliding in feet first, your head just squeezes past the back wheel and the axle hits you and it flips you that way, so your head's at the front now, but you're right next to the wheel, so as it keeps on going, the wheel basically presses up against your leg.
Yes.
Okay. That's not good.
Not good.
But that's about as good as it could be.
It was the best situation possible because here I am. So truck goes all the way. over me. I see the light again. My bike is just getting dragged the shit out of it underneath the truck. The guy stops, first of all. Thank you. He's gone into shock, so like he wants to run in and see if I'm okay, but he's also like, shit, I've just killed a kid. So he's the one to call an ambulance, but he's not getting anywhere near me because he's in terror. And then like one person runs in, and all of a sudden this empty street is just now like, there's 10 people around me. Someone's, I don't know, a registered nurse, or they've done their first aid. I can't remember what the deal was, but she ends up sitting on the ground and holding my neck.
Yeah, spinal stuff is
spinal stuff is first concern. So she's holding my neck. Someone's like, oh, I've got a blanket in my car boot. Pulls a blanket over me because it's cold, it's raining, I'm in the middle of the road. And I lie there for about 45 minutes until ambulances arrive.
What? We're right next to the hospital.
We're right next to a hospital and it took 45 minutes. So...
Not when I'm a paramedic, mate, don't you worry.
Don't you worry, Royal Doctors, fly on in. They get me in the ambo, they're like, oh, where does it hurt? I haven't lost consciousness at all. So like,
that's why I came to.
I'm like hyper aware of everything at that point. They lie me down on the gurney and say, where's hurt? Oh, my shoulder hurts, my legs hurt because I've lost all the skin with road rash. And then I'm like, oh, check out my leg. It feels a little dodgy. It's a bit painful.
Were you wearing pants or something?
So I was wearing gym shorts and compression shorts. And they're like, they can see all the, like the tire marks and the asphalt stuck in my skin. But because the compression shorts are wrong, they're like, oh, sorry, we're gonna have to cut these off, see how it's going. So they do. And just my thigh muscle pops out like a balloon. But the compression shorts kept it in up until that point. So I didn't know how bad it was. Fortunately, it didn't go over a single bone. It gave me a compression split, so it split my skin. So it was like a burst open sausage.
Yeah.
Finally get to the into the hospital. I get the once over. I'm like, oh shit. That was interesting. Of course, Snap is still a thing. So I'm like, let's add this to my Snap story. This is hilarious. Just got run over by a truck, Dan the life of. And then it's like, okay, you'll have surgery today, tomorrow, whenever they can fit you in. End up being like 3 days before I get surgery. So no food, no water.
Oh my God.
Fuck ton of pain medication and 3 days of waiting.
Do you have any recollection, even just lying on the street for 45 minutes in that situation is such a unique human experience, or 3 days fasted, opioided out of your brains.
Yeah.
Do you remember those states of consciousness at all, really, or?
Yes. First one is when I'm lying on the road. When you're going through adrenaline shock, you have a degree of disassociation and detachment. So I'm looking into the roundabout. And there's a big tree, like it's bigger than this, on the in the middle of the roundabout. But I'm looking on the other side, there's this little fluoro green dot. And I'm looking over at it. And then I realize it's my shoe. And my shoe has been catapulted like all the way over this 15-meter high tree at some point in the collision. And it's on the other side of the roundabout. And so like, yeah, I'm in pain, but the shock doesn't let me feel it. So all I'm thinking is, this is fucking hilarious. My shoe's arced over the tree. And I'm like, I wonder if I'm still wearing the sock. So that was my thought.
So you're in this real complete detached, logic only frame of mind.
Yeah. Well, it's like I've been in different kind of like medical scenarios, so that I'm not like freaking out. I've gone very detached and cold with it, but like I was finding there was a bit of irony and humor going on in the scene.
How about 3 days in the hospital bed?
That was grueling because like at the end of the second day, they were like, we're so sorry, we just can't fit you in. There's been like something more horrendous than you. We were going to give you the last surgery of the day, we can't do it. So I'd been fasting 2 days and I'm like, guys, let me eat something. Let me drink water. I don't want an ice chip. I want like a drink. So like, you know what, tonight you can eat, but tomorrow you can't. I'm like, fine. So my dad gets me a kebab. Best kebab of my life. I don't even know what they put in it, but it had the secret sauce.
Hell yeah.
I was more opioided out of my brain after the surgery. So they like tucked the leg muscle back in, stapled me up, and that's when I was on a combo of morphine, codeine, and other stuff. And that is like TV static in my brain.
Is that nice?
I hate opioids. Like really, really hate the sensation of them.
Is that because of the association or the sensation itself?
Both. You know when you're so hungry and you start to like, things get a little bit wobbly? It's like that, but you're not hungry and you've got a bit of a dull headache, but it's not really registering.
It's just a real, I'm not even living.
Yeah, exactly. So it's an I'm not even living kind of reality. And then in the, like, maybe most post-op drugged out states, full fucking delirium. So I remember the first person to come visit me was Max Steins.
Yeah.
Big shout out to him.
Hell yeah. Oh, I love Steinsy.
And like in my memory, I was like really cogent and I was really there. Turns out I was off my head and he was having so much fun with me, like winding me up. And I'm like talking and then out for 40 minutes. And then I'm like, I wake back up and keep talking as if there was no gap. And so he's just having a blast winding me up.
He's the perfect guy to visit you in a hospital bed, I feel.
Yeah, he was a good one. And then it's also like hot summer. I'm in a non-ventilated, non-air conditioned room, sun facing, like north facing, so I'm getting sun all day long. It was a purgatory of kind. So they're like, we can't let you go until you can walk. I'm like, well, check my leg out. You think I'm gonna, just let me go home, man. Let me recover. I'm not gonna recover here. So by day 5, after 5 nights of being there, so I've been there nearly a week. I get myself walking and I get myself discharged. I then relapse so badly and my leg inflates like a balloon and I'm not probably out of bed for another 3 months.
Is that infections or something? What's the relapse?
Swelling. So swelling and inflammation. So my leg was probably about twice the size. It usually is, and it's all just fluid. It's not particularly fun when you can't go to the bathroom. You can't get in a shower, and then once you are up and walking, or like hobbling, you have to duct tape a garbage bag to your leg every single day to wash yourself. Not particularly fun, particularly if you got hairy legs. So that time at home was not particularly fun. It was very painful. They had given me a lot of hardcore opioids to take at home. They made me feel disgusting.
Jeez, this is the start of every bloody fentanyl addict story ever.
And I can feel my brain getting hooked on them. Like, I can feel it. And I think I'm probably about 3 months off the end of my repeats. And I decided to stop taking all pain medication and just dealing with it. Best choice for me, because it could have gotten very fentanyl-y very quickly. Because the one that they'd given me was the only 2 steps down from fentanyl. So it was pretty strong stuff. And I'm not gonna lie, it's probably still affected my brain when it comes to addictive patterns and behaviors and those sort of things. So that's like, yeah, still at play.
Changes your brain chemistry.
Yeah,
I don't know that scientifically, but
no, it does change your brain chemistry. And also, you put anyone, like COVID would have taught most people, you put anyone in isolation for a period of time, mental health isn't going to do that great.
what do I hear? Even the most antisocial members of humanity, the ones who are serial killers, arsonists, whatever, even to them, the worst punishment you can do is lock them in a room by themselves.
Yep.
Even then, we're such social creatures.
Yeah. You do think, like, of the monks that go into caves and, like, re-emerge after 10 years of being in darkness and solace. Like, what a test to give yourself.
It's completely denying the monkey biological needs of your own self to try to deny the monkey and reach to the divine, the God half of humans.
Yeah, exactly. So the reason I say that's kind of where my adulthood started is because that's where I figured out what mental health was. I realized what depression and anxiety was because I was lying in bed with nothing else other than like pure distraction of the internet, which becomes very flavorless after a while. And then after then, it was like physical rehab for 2 years. So this is my final year of high school. I am going to the physio twice a week before school and doing sessions and then walking like myself after post-rehab sessions to school.
I'm getting called gay.
And then getting called gay, and then I'd be doing swimming sessions because I couldn't necessarily do stuff with my legs, and then I'd be doing all these other kind of... I've gone from like this very high-performance athlete, national, international level to the highest level of physical rehab possible. But at the end of the day, your recovery is self-motivated. So that's why I say that's where my kind of adulthood started.
Okay.
What about you? Were there any experiences that kind of brought you into that fold of, I have to choose this to be better?
Man, I mean, it's your interview, but if I think anyone, you can't have an easy life and a good character, right? You can't have them simultaneously. So you kind of have to accept that you're going to have a somewhat difficult life to have a good character and have that built, or the other.
Yeah.
I've been blessed to, I don't think, have the world really throw too much at me. Therefore, there's always been an urge to throw myself into challenge and hardship, which is the ultimate privilege.
Because I did pick up on what you just said there. I don't think easy is a comparative word, but I get the essence of what you're saying. But if you're saying serial killers and the most depraved people still struggle with the most human thing, which is to be yourself, I don't think anyone has it easy. It's just when you start comparing, there is comparative privileges and difficulties and hardships. But everyone fucking suffers.
100%.
It is the nature of all things. But it's interesting that you throw yourself at that opportunity because maybe you're subconsciously aware of that.
Well, yeah, I realized that you need it, and the idea of avoiding discomfort, which I probably could, and I think a lot of us Westerners could avoid a hell of a lot of discomfort. But why do people going on runs and signing up for Spartan races and doing everything that's solo traveling, even to a certain extent, even though it might sound quite romantic? The reality of things like solo travel
traveling's tough. Solo traveling's tough on yourself.
Yeah. So I think to answer your question, the gap year I took, which again was unbelievably privileged to just be able to prance around South America for 9 months. Yet I was 18. I think I met 3 other people below 20 the whole time. Everyone was... 5 years is not a big age gap now, but 18 to 23 or 24?
I think that 5 years is the most dramatic change.
Yeah.
Like, compared to 0 to 5, huge change. 5 to 10, little less. 10 to 15, little less. 15 to 20, I'm going to say 20 instead of 18. But those first years of being adult, that's where you actually learn. That is your 0 to 5 moment as
you're
an adult.
reborn into the world, right?
You're born into the world. You've got to change your own diaper. You've got to feed yourself. You've got to do all the things that you've had a hand in it.
Yeah. So it's certainly not a sob story. I never say it to people, but since you asked, yeah, that year was extremely lonely.
Yeah.
And whether on overnight buses with Bose headphones on or hostels, or I wasn't really hitchhiking too much at that point. And there were certain glimpses of people that I really appreciate that made it not lonely per times, but by and large it was pretty solitary. So I think that's got me at least able to, I would say I've never experienced it truly, so maybe you don't understand these kind of things as well.
Yeah.
But I think I have approached it close enough to potentially empathize and see, I know maybe what it might feel like.
Yeah, okay. I think my equivalent was straight after high school, I moved out. So I'm living with my girlfriend at the time. We're both like 18 dumb kids. I go into uni, I've got an internship, I've got a job. I'm living alone for the first time in my life. I'm in a serious, committed relationship for the first time. I'm trying to be social of my own extent because I don't have a school to bring all my friendships together. While you're in South America, my version was that. And that was testing.
Well, I wanted to ask you, it was actually in my notes, that I felt, another way I was maybe going to introduce you is that I felt you were the first adult in our whole school year. I felt like you were, and now you play it in context, because I feel like for whatever reason, I do remember, not on my own, I think someone was like, we're going to visit Brooke, so I'm pretty sure I went along with people to visit you once. But it wasn't at that stage in life, I didn't feel like I was crazy close with you, and for whatever reason. And it makes a hell of a lot of sense now you apply the context. But I do remember in year 12, our lockers were close to each other or something. Yeah. And you were saying how Mel was in the picture and then she was living on her own and you were half kind of in and out of living as an adult. And there's me kind of like everyone else, fully teenage mode, living school's life, living at parents. And then after, when you were fully wrapped up in this crazy architectural degree and the internships and the full-time girlfriend and you're both living on your own, I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, it was a trial by fire, definitely.
So why, I don't know if you like to speak about it, but Mel was obviously a character and seems like she might have been, or at least that relationship might have been a bit of a central spine of that, like becoming an adult. How did you two
100%.
meet? What was the attraction? What was that?
We met actually just before my accident. We met at a house party. We both had respective people that we were already with at the time. And so we just met as like two...
like partners?
Yeah, we both had exes at the time that we were with. And if every conversation I had with everyone was walking, talking to her was dancing. And it was very, very easy. There was immediately the chemistry to have a very easygoing conversation. And by the end of the night, we're all more or less underage. Everyone's fairly drunk. And then it's me and her in the kitchen making a cup of tea. And it's like, oh, you do this too? Okay, cool, real,
For context, last time I went to Brooks's house, he had the fanciest little tea set with like 1.5 million tea bags and shit.
I have recognized I probably, if I ever move into a multi-room house, I've got one teapot for every house at this point. Every room. So that was literally just where the friendship started. And it wasn't until much, much later that we kind of met again. And that's because she invited me to her birthday. And I was like, I met you once. That's kind of cool. Got an invite. Let's go. Our separate partners at the time, we'd both kind of ended those relationships. They played their course. And so by that time, we were both like, let's see. We still had that same chemistry. A couple months later, I asked her out on a date. It went very, very well. And then, come what was it, maybe 9-10 months later, I was actually living with her. So it's like very fast timeline, very immature in hindsight.
Where was the accident in that timeline?
And
that 3 months?
So met her, had the accident, kind of died a little death over summer, came back for school, rehabbed till the point where I was like, okay, I'm functional again. I'm not just on crutches or something. And then her birthday would have been in March, and by May I asked her out on a date.
So you just come out of this 3 months solitude in new man ready for human connection.
Yeah.
Forged in the fires.
Forged in the fire.
Opioids.
and ready to confront my humanity. Damn, that explains. I never thought of it in that timeline. Having played the timeline out in my head, it definitely explains why everything was so escalated.
Well, of course, I see that in my sister they're a bit older, so I hope for their sake it's more based on foundations of maturity and looks good. I live just there. But
beautiful spot.
His mum died a few very early days in their meeting. So, and then they moved to Brisbane together. So it's like this real forging of the fires.
Yeah.
I remember even meeting old mate Millie. That was the first bit, and this is a far smaller scale than both your stories, but first bit was the country's locking down and you know, wartime and shit like that.
Yeah.
So emotions run high and connections like made.
Yeah. Similarly, I think it was maybe 5 months into dating her. Her family dynamics required her to move out of home while she was still in her last year of high school.
Crazy.
So she's living in an apartment by herself, doing all these adult things that she's never done before. 5 months into we're dating. So, like, I'd had my little opium den experience. She's had this kind of like forced into the world, not by choice, but by requirement.
Was she ready for that at all?
I don't think anyone's ready for that.
No. But some people are more ready than others.
She was less ready, I believe, because it wasn't by choice. It was made by necessity.
That's tough.
She was traveling nearly 4 hours every single day to go to school. And that's just not viable. She was spending more time on the trains than she was at school, which is ridiculous. So that...
4 hours?
No, it was more like 6 from memory.
3 hours one way?
3 hours one way, 3 hours back. And like, if you've only got like a couple periods in a day, it's not worth it. So I think maybe skills-wise she was ready, but like emotionally, how to live on your own, how to be yourself with your own company, perhaps not. And then, yeah, a lot of first experiences, and like, best thing I can say is I know I've felt what love feels like, and to foster it and to grow it into something. But in hindsight, there was many marks of immaturity in that relationship that everybody has to go through. You have to learn a dialogue. That's the first time I'd ever dialogued in that kind of realm of romance before, when things aren't always good. How do you write your course? So I have nothing but good things to say about her and my experience, but after half a decade, 6 years, it was time to let each other go so we could both go the furthest that we needed to in our lives.
Because you two were together for, as you say, age, what feels like these days, but I feel like at any point in life, 5-6 years is a long time.
Yeah, it is, particularly when you're such a young age. If you start doing the percentage of how much of my life have I spent with this person, and it's nearly a quarter, it's wild. So I definitely shared my young adulthood with her. We taught each other many things. We called each other out on past behaviours we weren't aware of. We lived very lavishly for young people. But that isn't the whole reality either. So if you and your sister and her partner, they were forged through COVID, so were we. It's just we'd had a couple years before that we kind of went through our own COVID. Like that first year we lived together, we didn't go out anywhere. She got really, really sick, a couple of eye infections. Like we were locked in, but without a world event.
Because I saw you, I think at some point I must have seen you, and I remember thinking, wow, you are working, what, it was like 4 jobs or something.
Yeah, I was miserable.
Full-time uni.
Yeah.
And living independently, and it was cooked.
So I burnt myself out. I lit the candle both ends and I watched it burn all the way. So like where I'm at now, I've finished my degree. The day I finished, I quit all my jobs. And to go from like multiple jobs and study and a relationship and living out at home to I'm just bartending. It's a nice change. It's not long term, but like it is beautiful change.
It's now term.
It's now what's needed.
Yeah.
So it's been nice to enjoy that and kind of luxuriate in that for the past however many months, 7.
Nice. Okay, so in this period of this first 5 years of being reborn as an adult, and then all these things you were doing, which again were so different to at least the people we grew up with, I feel like so different to most everyone's experience. What are some lessons that you feel like other people might not be up to yet in a sense, or like completely miss out on because they didn't do it at that age? Are there any tidbits that you can offer?
Like at the end of the day, if you ever meet an older version of yourself, the older version of you is just going to say stuff you already know. Sleep enough hours, exercise every so often, get sunlight, eat good food. For me, I really turned up my love for food in how to cook for myself. That's been a huge factor, which means that coming into my late 20s, I'm not learning how to cook. I'm not trying to eat healthy. I'm just eating and I'm just cooking, and that is one stress I don't have to deal with. Because I've already done the practice, I've already done those hard years where you actually can't make shit very well.
I was thinking about my own skill base is like quite niche. I know how to live homeless and eat well and healthy, but...
Yeah, exactly. But like you don't want to be eating like plain rice or
relying on
hot overnight oats or scrambled eggs, ramen packets, and like boiled chicken. Food is
everyone relies on Uber Eats as well.
Yeah, I ordered Uber Eats for the first time this year in 5 years.
That's like a flex.
And it wasn't worth it.
I can cook better than this shit, and I would have taken less time.
Yeah. So for me, food was a great thing to learn while I was young and like build confidence in the kitchen. But that's a very personalized one. Other advice or like learnings, I identify what's a good learning by how familiar it already feels when I've come to accept it. I think that the most insightful things that you can divine from this experience will feel super familiar when you learn it.
So it's almost Renaissance kind of stuff of
somewhat.
This was hidden somewhere in me and I just didn't have the tools or someone hadn't set it in the right setup for me to unlock.
Exactly. I do think that the answers are within and without. So that's more for like real long-term life advice. That's not superficial stuff like cooking. That's like thinking about your own mortality, the course of life, the nature of relationships, the reflection of yourself in others, that kind of learning.
Do you have any nothing's truly unique probably, but do you have any out there takes on those big topics?
I am in a very quiet way, very, very spiritual. But I'm quiet about it because I don't follow formalized teachings or institutional spiritual platforms. I think I've grown up in an age of individualism, the decline of religious institutions and their merit. And it requires a degree of confidence, candor, and delusion to believe your own faith. But you look in history, everyone with confidence, candor, and delusion has usually gotten pretty far in life. So I'm not too opposed to owning that. But you say nothing is unique. I think everything is truly unique. I think everything is truly living. I don't think that there is any kind of differentiation between different people. I think we're all reflections of that same unnamed
Oneness
entity, and it doesn't need a name, because then you start losing your connection to it. It's not defined for a reason, in the same way that Allah doesn't have an image. So, yeah, I do have beliefs on that.
Have you come to those beliefs more through thinking and listening to podcasts and going for a walk in the park? Or is it somehow maybe through meditation or physical acts or psychedelics or those like of feeling them and then trying to put words on it?
I am, despite being someone who over-intellectualizes myself and my problems, I'm a feeler over a thinker. It started from the accident. Like, facing mortality is definitely going to tend towards leaning into kind of spiritualism, Gnosticism, esotericism, religion. And you can kind of tell how badly someone's doing by which kind of faith practice they align themselves to.
The nihilists out there are kind of struggle street.
The nihilists is struggle street, but if you really want to meet someone who's struggling, they go to Islam if they have no relationship to it. If they're just some white suburban kid and they're going to Islam, compared to the white suburban kid that's getting in touch with Buddhism, like, you know that they're on different paths.
Come here, buddy, this is a pretty girl that can give you a hug.
But like, for me, I think they're all teachings with merit. They're all teachings in themselves. It's just the practice, the ritual. That's where you get differentiation. And that's when it starts being about people and not otherness. So I've just been trying to tap into the otherness, and when it comes to people, this is the person I need to deal with.
Do you mean by that when it comes to changing people or altering or shifting perspectives, I need to focus on myself in that regard?
So, like, if I was to go back to when you were saying you can't really have the deepest experience in life if you haven't gone through some hardship, I think everything is spectrum-based. So if you've gone through the lowest lows, you're at a more open or more receiving side to recognize the highest of highs.
But those lowest of lows could be relative to you. It could, stubbing my toe could be the lowest thing I've ever experienced. But if I open myself up to the spiritual lessons in that stubbing of my poor little toe, because it was the worst low I've ever experienced, it could be just as effective as the person who was chattel slaved. And
I'm not going to go that far. I think that kind of gets into a logical fallacy point.
Okay.
But I was listening to, I've forgotten the name of this guy, but he's a wildlife park ranger in South Africa, and he's like been living on the savannah his whole life, looking after lions and ibex and like all these amazing creatures. But I was listening to his story, and he's like, I don't know, stuck up in a tree during a major storm, and there's lions on the prowl. So he's like up in this tree, he's had to make this little tree fort. And I can't remember what he did, but he hurt himself somehow. And he noticed how when he hurt himself on the first day, he's like yelling and flailing his arms about, and he's like kicking shit, and he's like, there's a lot of drama in hurting yourself. But after being there for like a couple weeks, you don't act out when you get hurt as much when you're by yourself. That kind of acting out is a response factor so that other people know you're hurt. Sympathy isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think it's more sympathy is an act to invoke empathy, which is a very monkey human thing to do. We want to band together. So when we get hurt, we act out so that everyone else knows that we're hurt. The lesson in stubbing your toe is it really hurts, but you don't necessarily kick the couch again to say, why'd you do that? Like, that's a bit silly.
Can you take that and expand?
I think you need to go within yourself, resolve those kind of awareness things before you can have that outward effect on other people.
Can that be expanded to, and I'm asking a lot of you in these big topics, but things like racism, Indigenous stuff, can that be expanded on the individual level? It's kind of like, don't be filled with resentment and hate.
I think you need to define that for me more, because are you talking about internalized...
So don't kick the couch. A modern day African American or Indigenous Australian might be seen to kick the couch as in white Australian society, whereas it's more like internalize it, get good with yourself, come from a place of strength and peace, and then...
All right. I think I know where you're going with this question. We know generational trauma exists. But the side that I don't think that people necessarily consider, I think within the question that you're trying to ask, is if we know that when we get hurt, we act out a little bit so that other people recognize we're hurt.
Yeah.
After centuries of hurting as a community, as a collective, and centuries of people denying you're hurt.
Sticking their ears in so they don't have to hear your screams.
Yeah, like pretending you're not there, denying to your face that there's anything going on. Chances are, like any human person, the degree to which you try and prove that you've been injured is going to escalate. And that's not a comment on the individual, it's a comment on the lack of recognition received. So I think that could be answering where your question was going, but it's not.
Until it's acknowledged, then it's just going to be screaming louder and louder and maybe trying to even kick the couch. To like, wait, you heard me last time.
I'm not wanting to, I want to make it very clear that these are two very different examples.
For sure.
Because I don't want to infantilize the pain in the First Nations community. But as an allegory, if you've got a toddler and they're in the throes of a tantrum, you can't, like, you just need to give that toddler a hug and sit with them and let them go through all the motions until the engine idles and stops. Like, that is what gentle parenting is, but we don't adopt that on a large-scale platform like whatever we call society.
Because would it be maybe correct in saying the toddler, not necessarily, as you say, it doesn't necessarily work every time, but it might be to some extent useful way of forming in my brain at least. Toddler, when it's hugged, when it's heard and listened to and its sufferings acknowledged, might at one point look around and be like, it's actually not that bad.
Yeah.
The thing that originally, my little tummy ache, oh, it's actually gone and the sun's out. And
And if everyone who's ever come out of a depressive episode, an anxiety attack, a mania spell, is going to recognize that similarity of the toddler, of being like, hold on. It's actually kind of nice out here. Maybe it was all in my head a little bit. Maybe the world's good and life's worth living for. Like, I think we all have got those moments where whatever spell we're under breaks and we see a glimmer of reality that is acceptable to us.
And by going through that journey ourselves, we can probably better understand, appreciate, acknowledge whoever's still under their own versions of those spells. It's like, oh, my spell looked quite different, and maybe a lesser or higher degree, but I kind of think I know where you are and I can treat it accordingly.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so...
But I want to ask, you jumped from very personal interrogation of my experiences, which I want. I want this dialogue. But then your first jump without context was to the
Indigenous stuff?
First Nations people in Australia and their survival and continued stewardship and their hardships. What does that mean for you, considering that we are both white kids from Australia on
well, it's very
unceded land?
Yeah, it's very in my head. Literally this afternoon, I'm going to interview a South Sudanese dude. Not the same thing, but similar things going on. And just went to the Outback, and the call to there originally was because I'm from Melbourne. I'm, as you say, white kid from Melbourne, living in Sydney. Those two places and the societies and the lives being lived in these places is not Australia. But it's such a far cry from what I envisaged, imagined, had heard of, and now know to a very small extent to be true of the lives being lived in Central Australia, the Outback, the Territory.
Yeah, okay.
I felt wrong to not have even scraped the surface. Like, I scraped the surface, and I feel slightly better for doing so.
Yeah.
I think, not to get too meta with it, but...
Because it's not like we haven't been meta so far.
No, but the human experience in my head is that of a divine monkey.
Yeah.
We're biological animals, we have these draws, goes back to the screaming for the social stuff. Everything that we've discussed is the monkey half of us, in one sense, animalistic. And that's not better or worse than the other half, which is divine. It wants to reach for the skies, it wants to help the disabled, help the elderly, unions, love, all that stuff. And they're not so black and white, but...
Oh, I'm a non-dualist.
Sure. But I would say that the modern, Europeanized, Western, white society is really aggressively going towards divinity, which is a good thing, their own version of divinity, man in the sky and terraforming the world to suit and praise God in the buildings and stuff. I see it not happening so much now, but certainly what started this country, the cathedrals are so beautiful, these things are so beautiful. But I think where it goes wrong, I think what I seem to see as it kind of hitting this, we're over the hump now, is because it did so maybe in a rush by denying the animalistic half. You look at deeply religious people, they completely deny their own sexuality and all sorts of other stuff. That's the first thing in my head, which is far more animalistic.
Things that are actually of the physical plane and your own materiality.
Exactly, and biology.
Fair.
And I guess I decry that. In my own individual life, I'm always fucking barefoot. Like, I see a lot of value for me to balance the scales, and because I lived and grew up such in that side of things, the divine, deeply, culturally at least, Christian way, I have a real pull to explore maybe more animalistic, indigenous ways, not to deny where I came from and say this is better or worse, but to hopefully just combine the two, because I think both sides can learn so much from each other. So when I'm in the mode of we're in the city and we're talking about private schools and corporate stuff and these journeys, which I love, and it's more me than this will ever be, to be honest. My mind always thinks, okay, how does this relate? So it can kind of, even just for pure survival, I don't think if I identify myself as purely city boy, culturally Christian dude,
I think you're denying something of yourself.
not only individually am I denying my own Indigenous heritage, which might not have been existing for 2,000 years since the Roman came and colonized us in Britain, but it is a thing, right?
Hold on. I'm sorry. I need to break this. I want to keep
Please.
going.
Yeah.
I need to go to the toilet.
I go for it.
So I'm going to de-mic, but I got a lot of points on that I really want to bring
Yeah,
up.
please. So just to round out that thought, I think not only is it individually for my sake a good for my own survival, but I truly believe that this kind of technologically obsessed material in this world civilization, there's always apocalyptic stuff going on. There's probably always been civilization collapses. Well, there has. And the people who survive after that are either the absolute tippy top winners of what we got now because they built a spaceship and they fucked off to Mars.
Yeah.
Or the indigenous ones who kept their insane survival skills and are still uncontacted in the middle of Papua New Guinea or the Amazon. Everyone in the middle dies. Whether it's of the soul or literally their body because, floods and stuff. In my head, and it's a bit of a brutalistic view, but it kind of goes with everything, I only really have time for the extremes. Even though the balance is the goal, I kind of recognize that when push comes to shove, the extremes are what works.
Extremes define the next chapter.
Yeah.
I think that's why there is always species-wide catastrophes every so few thousand years. I think that's why there's class conflicts every 150 years or so. So I get what you mean, and on a personal stage, that's where you're made, those extremes. But I do want to preface that the way that you are relating to First Nations communities could be tweaked. Language is very important when talking about First Nations communities as white people, because language is the thing that has blocked and eroded acknowledgement, care, and compassion for the past 180 years in Australia. So I do just want to bring your attention to, it's not just survival skills. But there is something innately, we are all indigenous to our species, but we differ in culture. So I get what you're talking about there. And you're right, I do think that it is it's either the highly interconnected communities with cultural history and ritual and integration to the matrix that is nature, or
completely
the hyper overprotective.
I would argue that in one scale it is actually survival skills, but it goes beyond just physical survival of food and water and shelter, and also recognizing that our culture, for instance, teaches us how to survive socially and of the spirit and soul, but seems to, in my head, quite clearly be failing us. It's done well for a few hundred, maybe even a couple thousand years. Probably a few hundred. But look at the mental health stuff, look at the suicide even existing, where First Nations, for instance, this country has survived, not just physically, but of the soul, of the spirit, of the culture itself for tens of thousands of years. That's kind of what I mean when I say survival.
Oh, no, I 100% get that. Only reason I bring it up is because for me it's a very important factor too. My first kind of awareness that you were talking about of these coexistent but totally different realities that are within the same country was I lived for a week or two with Indigenous community in a town called Arionga, which is 3 hours north of Alice. And I worked at the school there and helped out where I could.
When was this?
So this was when I was 11.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So this was like really formative. So that, like, while I was finishing uni, my last kind of real subject was working with Ngawi Carolyn Briggs, who's the head elder of the Bunurong here in Melbourne, and doing a design elective that would then go on to be a potential proposal for the St Kilda Council to kind of invest a dead car park space to the Bunurong community.
Is that
the one next to the Palace Theatre, the Palais Theatre and Luna Park?
Okay. There's another one that had a bit of Indigenous graffiti, but it wasn't a whole car park, so.
So nothing's there yet, but like it was my like kind of master's design studio that was then proposed to council.
Nice.
So I also find it an important factor. But like talking about survival, bettering your life and adding value to it isn't a necessity, but it is a requirement of survival in the long term. And I think survival, when we look at it through our kind of globalized Western lens, is like, what can you live off bare basic? Like the minimum requirement. And I think that there is a richness that is overlooked if we just use the word survival.
Richness in
First Nations cultures and cultures that are separate from this hyper-globalized world. But it's funny that I've been really into journaling for the past maybe 4 or 5 years. And just this week, I was kind of having this kind of reflection moment on how there is a tipping point between your ideals and when they turn into idols. And I think you came to kind of a very similar outcome of recognizing that technologically, we've, as a globalized Western colonial culture, we have had ideals. And they have been rushed past, and things have been overlooked, and the effort of development has definitely detached us from some of the more material and interpersonal skills that we need to have. But like AI, to me, is a spiritual presence that we are treating as an idol instead of an ideal.
I think I think it stands a good chance of being the next god and replacing religion almost, functionally.
I don't necessarily see that trajectory, but if we introduced what AI is to a pre-internet culture, like the internet in itself, when it was first kind of like publicly available, it was this magical, utopic futurism that, and there was a sense of that. I felt a little bit of that growing up as like a 2000s child. I still felt that there was a little bit of like hope for innovation. While now I'm like a full Luddite. I want to throw my clog in the shoe, like my clog in the machine, and stop it turning. I don't think that AI is necessarily the direction we should be heading in, but I see the advantage of it. I just see the opportunity to abuse it.
Yeah.
Much closer at hand.
Well, I just see if we go down that, if we keep on pushing the technological path, the only clear answer is to detach yourself from this natural world and go off to some other planet. Because I think it fundamentally lies on this basis of we are not nature, we are not indigenous. Like, we all are indigenous to this planet. We all are part of the natural world. And it's this like, you know, I need a... You see it in the way the world works. We're sitting on the rocks, not the grass, or the roads cover the dirt beneath. The floorboards of my house aren't packed dirt.
There's a lot of manipulation to our lived environment.
So I'm human, we're humans, and there's nature. Whereas I heard, I don't know if you've come across Paul Rosalie. Tries to save the Amazon dude. And
yeah, no, I listened to a number of Paul Rosalie's podcasts, and
pretty cool.
He's a cool guy.
And he said, I remember seeing a video of his own experience of the jungle. He was saying a very similar thing of, we are nature, and in the jungle you feel that because you sweat all day, you see it rise vapor off you and join the clouds, and then every afternoon it rains down on you and you drink it out of the river.
Yeah.
You are part of this
Yes.
system. And if you're not recognizing that, and if anything, actively going against it, which my most judgmental side of me just scorns people who are like, oh, I'm too cold, or oh no, I can't get wet, or this and that, dirty, because it's this standing away from nature. Then you have to go the other side, in my head, to get to the extremes. If you're not going to go that way, it therefore means you're going the other way, which is, I want to live on Mars.
Yeah. I definitely think that it's like, okay, we are a reflection of nature in the same sense that nature's a reflection of us. The leaves have veins just like us. The trees reach to the sky the same way our hair does. The animals, are by nature interconnected. We are an animal as well. I think AI is the same. It is a reflection of the culture. Problem is, I just don't think the culture's liking what it sees.
Ah, okay.
And if we're not into terms with one of our reflections, what makes us ready to see another?
What do you think we're seeing? What do you think this culture is seeing in AI? What do you think
I think it's more important to ask, what's the AI seeing in us? Because one has a perspective that isn't, one has a fresher perspective.
Because I always see AI as very powerful, very intelligent, if you want to call it, knows a lot, has access to a lot, but is more than willing to just spit out the answer that's easiest for it to compute, and is going to be good enough to look good to you and trick you. And you could probably say the very same thing about this culture. We're more than happy to, in the cheapest possible way, build a house that's going to be good enough so that you buy it, but it might fall down in 5 years, but that doesn't matter. Versus this same culture 50 or 100 years ago was more concerned with making sure the bricks are fucking good and it's going to last 100 years.
I think just like that, the way AI is being coded is hasty. I don't think we're trying to make a monument that's going to last 1,000 years. I think we're trying to make... The next dev team is trying to figure out which program is going to be released before their program.
To get the IPO out and get rich.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that a lot of nuance is left behind. Humans are by nature incredibly deep, insightful, and nuanced. But you lose that with AI because people aren't willing to put that nuance in. And one argument is maybe we shouldn't, so it can be a separate thing to us, so that there are certain things that can never be articulated, like music, theatre, performance, arts, poetry, the typical creative, only humans can do things. But if you're coding based off utilitarian philosophies from Hegel in the 18th century, how relevant is it? How relevant is that calculation? You can feed all the information in, but there is a reason that there are analysts, and it's to sift through the information and condense it into, and distill it into something that's useful. It's not just having it. You don't throw in infographics unless they mean something. And I think that there's just too much generative work without enough distillation of whatever's being generated. And I think that there are so many other uses that AI is being used for by governments, militaries, private corporations that are making money is the easiest game that we have, as humans, have ever built, because it's predicated on doing something which is putting yourself over other people. It's always hard to show compassion. That is all, like, it takes the most amount of courage to be vulnerable. Making money is making yourself invulnerable. Invulnerable to losing money, invulnerable to wasting materials, invulnerable to PR problems. Like if you're a business, you need to bulletproof yourself against all of these factors. The only thing you can't bulletproof is vulnerability because it's antithetical.
Hey Brooks, that's sounding pretty gay and socialist.
And guess what? I could convince a few people. Yeah, I'm not a fan of AI. And I think this is definitely a podcast. We went from some very real personal stuff to
okay, so let's
some
bring it back.
broad-ranging stuff.
What you saw the breakdown of your parents' marriage, 12 as a tween, and then your own pretty engaging, in-depth. I would hazard to say that a lot of humans don't actually get the opportunity to have a kind of love story like you and Mel might have had once in their life. So, nice. What is your current relationship with love and relationships, intimate relationships?
First of all, love is very real. Love will come around to all people when they're ready for it. As I think most teenage boys in a all-male environment, you get pretty lusty after the idea of companionship. Like, put teenage bullshit aside and sex and all that, to actually have companionship is something you do kind of want really, really badly if you're feeling a bit lonely as a child. Until I kind of stopped thinking about that and made whatever it actually was, until I made myself ready for it, love didn't appear.
And you were ready at 17?
Yes, at that time. Similarly, I'm taking that learning forward now. So I think it's very much of, it will come to me when it's ready. I'm not necessarily going out and trying to find the love of my life, speed dating, or going through the back rooms of Hinge and trying to talk to any person that can dance well at the bar. It'll come to me, so I'm not really chasing. But there's lots of forms of love. Familial, love for your friends, love for yourself, love for nature and your environment, love for what you do. And I've just been slowly trying to okay, let's see how many of these boxes I can, not tick, but how much can I pour into it? I've never really felt like I loved doing something because I've always done a bit of everything. So for me, that's currently what I'm on the hunt for now.
How does that look? Action items.
A lot of wasted time, to be honest, and a lot of sitting on my ass thinking about how I'll make my life better. But because I've finished architecture, I was working in the industry for 6 years, and it sucked all the creativity out of me. It's not for me. I love the degree, but work is not the same. Also, FYI, architecture standardization and rules are the most insane in Australia compared to every country in the world.
Is that literally just for safety or for?
Yeah, it is for safety, and it is for you can expect that there is a new fire rating safety thing on facade systems every 9 months in Australia. Because we keep having massive multi-level condos go up in flames every 3 years here in Melbourne because they've put in one material 9 years ago that 9 years ago was fine, but today is ultra flammable. So you can expect that. You can look at changes to be more disability friendly. But the backside of that is if you're doing a renovation of more than 60% of your house that maybe you've owned for 20 years and you have no intention of selling, you still need to alter the door width of everything in your house.
Sorry, mate. I'm not friends with disabled people.
It's like, doesn't matter. You could sell the property and the next person who buys it could be disabled.
They wouldn't buy that property.
That's not where the standardization's gone. A rule came out last year, which means that like everything needs to be built within a certain span of like, regularly it's 900 mils. This rule was saying that all doorways need to be 1100, so that's the minimum a wheelchair can get through. Really valuable on a practical point for the society. But when you're like...
Not private homes, though.
But you're enforcing that on private residences. Like, there is a point where the scale tips, and it's no longer about the welfare or the betterment of individuals or communities that aren't necessarily given the same opportunity, whether it's ableism or anything along those lines. But it goes too far.
Yeah, do that in libraries and cafes and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that,
but like... Australian standards are nuts. And at the end of the day, I'm not good at puzzles. And to do a lot of architecture work is at the computer, trying to gamify how can you get this through council, but also tick off everything on the Australian standards. Maybe it's a school. How do you tick off all the requirements for VSBA? It wasn't my thing. So I'm not going to go back into architecture, but I do want to do a creative endeavor. Similarly to you interviewing, going around and finding any kind of senior creatives, any field, I don't care. And just saying, hey, I want to bother you for 30 minutes, I'll buy you a coffee, I just want to do, like, what was your career path? Like, you studied... Maybe you also did architecture and you were really successful and you went under someone who was super successful your time. You started your own firm. You're a photographer. How'd that happen?
Have you been doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's why I started this essentially. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and then ask people about their lives and I'll probably figure out mine.
Yeah, exactly. So like that's one factor. The other has been like re-engaging creative passions that aren't on deadlines. So I've been, over the past 6 months, I've done a lot of little craft hobbies. And that's all they are. But I'm not pumping out massive volumes of work for some kind of folio submission anymore. I'm not like staying up all night to make sure it's in by 11:59. So I just finished a airbrush painting. I'd never airbrushed in my life. I just picked one up at Bunnings because I thought, why not?
Airbrush? What is an airbrush?
It's kind of like...
graffiti?
Like an aerosol can is an attempt of mimicking an airbrush. It's essentially, instead of having a compressed can of air, you're just hooked up to an air compressor itself. Okay. So I had some draw down blinds. They were opaque. I wasn't blocking the sun enough. So I was like, let's do a painting on it. That'll block the sun. Fun.
That's great.
Yeah.
Do you have the photos of the painting?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So like I've just been doing little craft projects like that. I've been trying to see my friends, cook a little bit more, cook a little bit better.
Soak your life force.
Yeah, exactly. And also like there have been periods of my life where I've been really good with physical health, and then times where I've lapsed. Okay, let's get back into that. But not in a way of like how I learned how to do it, like through the athlete and the like physical reconditioning side, where it's like you have to do it this way. But like, how can exercise be a bit more fun?
Yeah.
Where's my spiritual hygiene at? Like, what am I doing to make sure that I'm not like caught up in my head and going down a spiral the second I wake up in the morning? Those sort of things. I'll find love when love finds me.
But as you say, you can nurture love because it's an internal thing, and then maybe it spills over so much into some other person who happens to join, your life trajectories. But in the meantime, I'm not going to dampen my own capacity for love. I'm just going to put it into all these other things.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's what I've been doing. Like while I was actively in love with Mel, like when it was good, these are the things, the tools that I learned. And when things got bad, a few of them I dropped off. But like, it doesn't mean I can't just pick them up again and see how they go. Do they still work the same way? Am I still any good at it? Am I better? Or has it lost the source and I need to find a new avenue to pursue that fulfills whatever it was doing for me?
Do you think they work the same way? Like, to what extent do we need other humans to almost... Because I was saying this to some people. It's very special when you have that kind of connection with someone. But of course, if it does... Oh, wow, that's sick.
So when the light shines through, you really get the
That's epic, man.
character. But it was a bit of fun.
That's great. I love that.
But you were saying, like,
Yeah.
while in love, does it put a...
Well, I think what I was kind of trying to verbalize for myself, it made sense. I'll see how you digest it. It's almost as if, for whatever reason, that person helps me to pull and extract the love I already have internally for myself and the world and whoever. They help me pull it out and nurture it and dish it out.
Yeah.
And so when they're gone or in a bad time, it feels like the world's darker.
Yeah.
I have less love because I don't have this person who, for whatever reason, helped me pull it out. But of course, it was always internal, it was always there. And I was saying to this person who'd gone through some stuff, like, no, you own your love. It was always yours. And yes, that person was, give them their dues, they were special for showing you how to access it and where to put it. But that might have been their only reason for being. And now you don't want to, because they're gone, go back to before. No, you topped it up. They showed you how. So keep it around.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I do think that the love you have is your own, because otherwise how could you give it away to someone else? Like, that's the point. But I think for me, the way I was conditioned to kind of consider my own masculinity and like what is it as my role as a man within a relationship, which I've since kind of realized not as hard and fast as I thought it was.
What were you thinking it was?
That it's easier to love through an act of service to someone else than it is as a service to yourself.
Right.
And that as a man, it's a lot easier to be all these things for the sake of somebody else than in your own right.
Hell yeah.
For your need. And so I think that is definitely something I learned through wins and pitfalls of that relationship. There are 1,000 ways that once I realized, like, oh, I know how to love someone else, now I can focus on directing it towards myself. There were a lot of scripts I could kind of unlearn and rewrite because, well, over here, this relationship's good. This one's bad. Oh, okay, let's deal with that because at least I'm assured over here. And when I go over there, that other person can assure me that I'm doing a good job. And I don't need to worry about it.
Oh, okay, that's cool. Because I think I get the sense that a lot of men in particular are kind of taught that what you might now describe as self-love is selfish.
Yep. I was kind of
That's
leaning towards that when I was growing up.
And then is what you're saying that if you have a really good, stable partner and connection with that, if they do love you, they therefore invested in your own love of yourself. So they'll kind of almost let you be selfish.
They should
encourage you.
They should be invested in you. I think what love is a recognition of the reflection of yourself in each other. Whether that is...
Sorry, I'm just a recognition of the reflection of yourself in each other.
I think that to love someone else, you need to recognize a part of yourself in them. That's not just romantic in the sense of like they are my partner. I think that's the nature of love with all people. I think we're all reflections of each other. And I don't think you can show compassion to other people fully unless you can recognize the similarity between yourself and that other person.
Wow. So, and by consequence, the more you like and even love all sorts of parts of yourself, you have way more capacity for way more kinds of people out there to give it to them as well.
100%. The more you can be in yourself, the more you can give yourself to others. So
I definitely feel that to be true.
yeah.
If I think back to former versions of myself, which might have been far more closed, less accepting of a wide array of who I am and what I want to be, but maybe a more narrow vision, I would have had a lot less time, energy, liking, let alone loving all sorts of different people. The more I recognize this part, now that whole subsection of humanity, I can have a lot of time and energy for.
Yeah. For example, I grew up in an area which was where the majority of heroin was sold during the heroin epidemic of the early 2000s.
Where was that?
Just down the road.
Oh, okay, yeah.
For me, it was very common to see really, really serious addicts down near my local shops, next to the grandmas on the street. Sometimes I'd come home and I'd go through the back door and there's someone shooting up, and I've caught them midway through them shooting up.
On your back porch?
Yeah, basically. In the laneway. One guy straight into his dick because he didn't want, that was the best vein that he had. It wasn't particularly fun to see him get shocked and kind of jerk startled while he's so poor guy. But
how old were you when you saw that?
That particular guy? Oh, I don't know, 15. The reason I brought that up is because having gone through my own experience with opioids and kind of understanding addiction from my own experience more than I could have as a child, I do see the people, the houseless people from my kind of childhood area who are very addicted to drugs, and I can have a bit more compassion for them because of that. And at one point I was thinking do I want to be a psychologist? I like intellectualizing things too much. I like digging into it. And then I kind of had this realization when I was going to my own psych session that it's the majority of the time people's problems and the way that they kind of self-sabotage themselves is kind of the most rational thing you can do in this madhouse of a world. If you've gone through all these really tough experiences, different kinds of abuse, different kinds of hardship, different kinds of neglect, different kinds of trauma, it's actually a fairly rational thing to do to self-soothe and look for that in whatever it is. And a lot of people, that would be drugs or alcohol or whatever. But I know that I couldn't be a psychologist when I could empathize with whatever hardships. And at the end of the day, my job as a psychologist is to say, you're really valid for that, but the culture doesn't accept it, so here's some lithium. When you have that level of compassion, you can kind of see why people make the choices they make. And it's less about the judgment of that guy is stripping and taking a shit on a tram because he's hopped up. And it's more, you can see that this guy's going through it really tough. And you have less of a disgust reaction and more of a, how can I help this dude out reaction.
It's funny you say that. I was literally today talking about, I don't know if you've heard or come into contact with George Landy from school.
I haven't, but I have heard he has gone through some experiences. And I don't think I said it out loud to anyone, or maybe I said it to a friend from Sydney who doesn't have full context and whatnot. But I was I don't know if this is bad reflection of me, as in I might be on the edge myself. I don't think so, but I kind of get it. Yeah. And the more you learn about someone's life experiences, the more you get it.
And to be honest, I don't need to know about the individual, like the person on the tram or like him or anyone. Again, in my actions, I don't think I'm a doomer gloomer. But I don't know, this world, it's, especially if you're spending time on the internet, and especially if you're exploring things like psychedelics and then the internet and then this world, especially in a city, I get it.
You're probably going to end up with some very twisted thoughts about the nature of reality, particularly if you throw all of those things in a mix.
Right. And and there is a weird part, which I think you're getting at, is to say, now I've got the tools to hook myself into the predominant culture more effectively than that junkie, for instance. But part of me is like, who's to say the predominant culture is wrong, right, and you're not the right one? I'm not saying I also think you should be shooting it up straight to your dick, but there's 1 millionth of me that says, fuck it, that's the answer.
Like, I can definitely see how someone gets there if they've gone through something rough enough.
Yeah.
Because we all have some kind of addiction. Most people, it's their phone. And the internet. Then there's the nicotine addictions. I think we're all addicted to some kind of script or behavior. And if you can empathize with other people and also not look into any one action, but to see the kind of course of events from a distance, I think you can generally get along with more people. And I don't think that the predominant culture is all good, but nothing's all bad either. Like, it's not black and white, nothing is. I think your reality is based on what you pay attention to and where you invest that intention.
That's interesting. Well, I think literally by definition, the predominant culture is the best mean average which serves the most people in the best way.
Yep.
That's why it is the predominant culture. Otherwise, if it weren't, it would change. If it was so far off, that's when revolutions happen. But it always bounces back to, this is the average, the best mean.
Yeah, and I do think that there is another factor in, which is the kind of cultural pendulum swing, where it is, yes, a mean average of whatever's best for, on a utilitarian aspect, for the most people, generalized. But I do think that there is always a motion towards the direction of that culture, which the everyday person and the mean average does not get to dictate. So right now, AI is part of that pendulum swing. And I think the general populace gets to dictate how it is, how we operate with it, but not how it gets utilized. Like, I don't think the mean average of people would want to put AI towards what Israel is doing against Palestine with Palantir and drones in the UK and, not UK, Ukraine. I don't think that is the direction that we as the general populace get any dictation over at the moment. But I do think that we are the ones that will be able to, I think kids are going to be the first ones to use AI to start mimicking their parents' voice so they can get off school. And I think that's what I mean when I say it's like, we get to dictate it how it's used, how it's useful, but not how it's used.
Okay, that's interesting. How are we going for time?
Time-wise...
10, 15, what are we?
I got another 40.
Oh, wow, okay, cool. Okay, so just because I originally asked you and got off the AI topipic.
No, and I got back on it because it did demonstrate a point. Though.
No, it's great. I love it. The one thing about that, to round out, and I don't know how open to express, or even if you think about it much, or it plays a big part, and you touched on it right at the start of the piece. But based on your perspectives of love and relationships, and bloody hell, I'm going to enjoy rewatching this to really soak this in, because not always does someone have such eloquently, not just articulated, but thought out thoughts. So congratulations.
Thanks for the compliment. I receive it warmly.
Perfect. But my parents split up.
Yeah.
And I never thought that really affected me, because it didn't in a kind of this pure logic, functional way, until I started getting into relationships myself, and then I really saw the markings of it. I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
that's shocking.
Yeah.
And
Oh, it's always a shock when you see your own parent in yourself.
right, and my own relationship with love and relationships and what they mean. And then a few of my friends' parents now are getting divorced and breaking up. And the circumstances behind those actions, all this kind of media and thoughts and whatnot I've been digesting about men, women, relationships, what it all means in societal context and interpersonal context. And then to see storylines that are kind of deemed as bad or good, or this is where it went wrong, and then see them play out so close to home.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So I just wonder, in that context of marriage and your own parents, how that comes to play when you think of your own way you show up, with the way you think about long-term committed marriage, stuff like that.
First of all, I take my parents' experience as the go-to guide of what to avoid.
Okay.
Straight up. I never saw them during my lifetime ever kind of actively affectionate with each other. They're both workaholics. So my dad really wasn't around very much during those kind of like first 10 years. And they split when I was 10. So other than the fact that they know how to enjoy an argument with each other, not in the domestic argument sort of way, but the more of the academic argument factor,
Debate for the sake of debating.
Yeah, they love a debate with each other, and it's because generally my dad's a good debater and he has never won against my mum. She is a long winning champion with that. And so they've always, that's how they kind of interplayed with each other, but I never saw any kind of
But for human connection to be based on conflict is such a strange one.
Such a strange one. And there was a lot of emotional distance between them. At 9, that was really, really apparent, because I felt like the loneliest kid in the world and I couldn't figure out why. And it's all because they were lonely themselves. I've also got a very matriarchal family. My mum has 3 other sisters. And so I always considered to be living with a council of aunts.
Wow, 4.
Yeah.
4 girls.
And then my dad had 3 sisters and a brother.
Wow.
So I've got a very maternal family.
That's 7 out of 9.
Yeah. And so when it comes to what did kind of imprint on me was, it's not the same as that classic men provide trope, but it's rather the performance of masculinity is a performance of service. So there's a nuanced difference between men provide and men serve, but at the end of the day, I did kind of grow up with that kind of concept. And
my mind goes to worker bees to the queen bee.
A little bit, yeah.
But the queen bee is never gonna be in adoration of her workers, is she?
So that's where I start to drift away from the imprint that I was kind of gifted with my childhood.
A fan, hey.
I think that there is a very, very healthy required element of that in all relationships. And I think it's less based on gender now. But I do think that there is kind of this interplay that's still existent. So also as like this kind of matriarchal family, that also there's a very big generational gap between everyone in my family. So all of my cousins, like my natural cousins, were always like 15 to 25 years older than me.
Wow.
And my second cousins were always 5 to 15 years younger than me. So because of that age kind of differences, there's also this hierarchy of age within my family that plays out. So there was always this phrase that would go along with like, oh, who makes tea and coffee when everyone's together, the lowest on the totem pole.
And that was always you.
Yes.
Until that next generation, by which you've already well imprinted.
Yes, exactly. So that's kind of like my foundational point. Then kind of next lesson was self-taught, which was more about confidence. And just being able to sit comfortably with awkwardness and play it out. And that if you don't think or you don't let yourself find a situation awkward, it's not an awkward situation. It's just that the other person you're dealing with is awkward. If you're not awkward, the situation is not awkward, they're awkward. And then it's not your problem.
That's so true.
And so like that was kind of the first lesson of confidence I taught myself at 15 doing dance classes with all the girls' schools.
True. Because you feel that so I'm first year uni, so half the cohort's 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
And usually 18-year-old girls, and there's some of them are just so concerned. You can kind of see it in their actions. So concerned with what's cool and whether it's what they wear or how they act or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, if something which it might have been when I was 18 awkward, but now it's like, who the hell cares?
Yeah.
And then
it's like at the end of the day, it's not an awkward situation. They're just an awkward person and you're not.
Wow, that's true.
And that helped me establish a little bit of grounding if I know that my main kind of insecurity is a self-worth factor. That's a big boost for me. So that was kind of like imprint and lesson 1. Question is now, I definitely gave away in that kind of first serious relationship too much of myself. Too much of it was based on service. And towards the end where there was kind of a growing emotional distance, which really pulled out these old like scripts that I got from my parents' emotional distance from each other.
Okay.
I leaned into like way too much service. Because at a point that is what I felt like was the only thing that left me feeling like a man. I have now totally like abandoned that script.
Okay.
Fantastic. But at the end, like, it was really self-detrimental.
Because I get the sense that, yes, it's good for a man, let's say, let's keep the gender roles somewhat extant, I don't know, to be of service. But at a certain point, if it's not reciprocated, you start to feel like a cuck, essentially. Or simp is probably a better term, simp. And then, but you don't want to, in defense of that, just be the hard ass who just takes. So it's really about making sure the reciprocity.
Yeah, reciprocity.
Reciprocity is maintained, and that's always like by its very nature.
It's a shifting scale.
Walking the tightrope, and then it's complicated so much if you're fully in love with someone, like emotionally hooked into them deep. That happens after a few months, let alone 5 years. That okay, if it's more of me going in service for a little while, that's fair, that's normal, because the pendulum will swing.
Yeah.
But if it's months or years of that, I'm kind of waiting for the pendulum to swing, but in the meantime, I'm just kind of drifting more to this side.
You're drifting away from yourself. As much as you're drifting away from the relationship, if we're saying that, like, what we said before of, like, to love yourself is what you need to do before you can love another, When you're constantly giving out acts of service with nothing reciprocated, you're drifting away from your own center.
And then the caveat to that being, of course, especially if you're in something like a marriage where it's supposed to be, you say it on front of all the people you know and love, till death do us part. So there will be some time where people sick or down and you have to carry them a bit for a few months or years. Do you cut the cord after a few months or years? Do you cut the cord never? Do you cut
Yeah. I had this it was kind of like one of those things that develop as an inside joke, and it actually turned out to be one of the serious kind of life lessons for me, which is, yes, relationships are made. Like, it's easy to fall in love because that's the nature of falling. You just kind of let it do its thing. But then at a certain point, you have to learn each other. You need to learn each other's tells and also each other's things that are going to piss each other off. And you need to negotiate that. And so what I kind of called those cycles of, like, where you lean towards one person giving a bit more and the other person taking a bit more, and then that pendulum switching is like, each cycle of that, I would call it growing a new leaf.
Okay.
So if you think that, like, a relationship is like two vines coiling around each other, in one aspect, you're bridging the support for the other vine leaf to grow higher. But you could suffocate the other person by growing too much. So it was this kind of concept of, if we're growing our relationship and we're two separate vines and we're entangling together, each kind of cycle of growing, resentment. When that is released, you've grown a new leaf. You've started a new chapter. And so
in each of those cycles, one of the stages is resentment.
Yes, it has to be. Because unless you're feeling something, how would you know what you're going to change? Like, your feelings are there on purpose.
Is that the resentment come from both parties, or the lower or the higher one at that stage?
It's situational.
Yeah.
Like, okay, let's say I'm talking about my relationship with Mel. I went to university and she didn't. In the first year together, she was employed. Like, we were both employed, but I was studying on top. So there was a degree of kind of like being there that I couldn't provide because I was at uni. I was over here. And
Financially?
no, like, let's just talk about attention.
Okay.
Like, first of all, totally unrealistic in love to say, I'll give you everything. Because you give everything away, you got nothing left for yourself. 2, you don't live a very balanced life because you're only doing one thing. You don't put all your eggs in one basket. So, like, early years, she had growing resentment because I was not able to give the same amount of attention that she was wanting to give to me, because I was literally giving my attention towards study. She started a business, and it totally switched. Yes, I was still studying, but in the scheme of it, when you invest all this money into a commercial shop front and doing it up and like running your own business before you're 21, I grew resentful because now, like, more of her attention's over there than it was directed towards me. And so it's like there's this constant back and forth of it. And that's why I think love is a dance, because you got to constantly keep course correcting. Otherwise, you're going to be the vine that gets strangled out or strangles the other person.
I have always felt the inclination that a lot of people will just date to no end and sleep around to no end and tell themselves it's almost, if they tell themselves they're believing in the idea of love and marriage and all that stuff, this is all practice for that.
I think a lot of people try and do a little bit of everything straight off the gate.
Yeah.
Without realizing where their compass is pointing.
But I've always found that I reckon better than, I think better because I think it's cleaner, than sleeping around, for instance, to practice that is to literally go dancing.
Yeah. I went through a massive dancing stage after our breakup.
Yeah.
I was like,
It's a proxy.
it was a proxy, but it's also because I wasn't on a dance floor trying to go dance with some girl. I was on the dance floor because I was lost in the music, having a great time by myself or with like a couple great mates. And we're not paying attention to each other. We don't even pay attention to the people who are dancing with us.
Yeah.
We're just there,
So
having a boogie.
Okay, cool. Well, do you have any moments that your mind immediately goes to, maybe paint a picture or tell a story of just genuine like life highlights?
I've definitely got a few.
As the sun beams down.
I will talk about the Camino again quickly with my dad, because
Please.
for me that was a huge chapter closing moment. And it really felt like the first time he acknowledged the distance that grew between us, because of my parents' separation and like him marrying another person and the birth of my brother. It had been 15 years since he did his first Camino. In that 15 years, like, yes, he got married, yes, my little brother was born, but also he'd gone back and done the Camino again. And he'd done it again with his wife, and he'd done it again with my little brother, and I was the last
Really?
one.
Okay.
And I'm like, you motherfucker. I was 12 asking if I could come and you said no, and I'm the last one you invite? So, let's air out every little grievance in our relationship. Like, I didn't even get to go to your wedding reception.
What?
Yeah, because he did it at a cocktail bar and I was under 18 and they wouldn't let me in. So I'm like, there are so many like little things. For him, they're just moments. But of course, as a kid, like, they're more factors because your life is shorter, so you put more weight on experience.
And also, for us, for adults, a kid, even your own kid, is still a kid where, for a kid, that parent, especially dad, literally Superman.
Yeah, literally Superman. You want them to be the Superman figure. Even when you say like the worst things and you think the worst things about them and you think about how you've been abandoned or whatever, like at the end of the day, what you crave is connection. So I was like, okay, we're gonna go on this trip. This is probably the longest one-on-one time I've ever spent with him in my entire life. Because he was a hard-working CEO during my first 10 years, and then he had this other family, so I only got to see him on every second weekend or so for the next 10 years. If I want to say, like, kind of bridge this gap, it's either going to be on the first day or the last day. And it just depends where my courage is at. So that was like the mindset I went in, other than the fact that I'm about to go off on a long walk for hundreds and hundreds of Ks in nature with strangers to talk to. Like, that sounds amazing to my standards of what a good time is. But the talking to my dad, that was the bit that scared me. So I got over, and I voiced everything on the first night. And he actually was in a position to receive it. And he opens up about his life experience. First time in his entire life. He's talked about things he's never shared anyone. Not his wife, not my mum, not his previous relationships, no one.
I don't even know what that would be. Obviously you can't say it.
My
yourself.
grandfather was an alcoholic. Ridiculously smart. He would read 12 books a week.
What?
Yeah.
How is that even a thing?
Yeah. He was ridiculously smart. I never got to meet him because he was dead before I was born. But he was ridiculously smart, but when he was a drunk, he was the smartest mean drunk that would cut you in half with his words. And so he talked about that kind of abusive relationship he had with his dad and that sort of thing. And I've never seen my dad cry. I voiced everything. I didn't think he was going to be the one voicing things. And so it's I had to parent my parent. I had to tell him it was okay to cry. I need to tuck him into bed. I also need to be the one to say after this very emotional first day, I'm going out for a drink. I'll see you in the morning. And then, like...
Wait, real quick, was that a solitary drink, or did you meet some strangers?
I met some strangers. I ended up making friends with this Ukrainian dude who'd been living in Spain for 6 months, didn't speak Spanish or English, and so we're just having this little Google Translate convo. Like, after a while, the two guys alone at the most crowded bar filled with, like, underage people who are going to gravitate towards each other.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, what the fuck are they doing there? So, like, yeah, met someone, had a chat with them, then went home, put myself to sleep. And then for the next 2 weeks, I'm walking. And I don't know my end destination for the day. I forget what day of the week it is. I don't know the time. And I just walk, and all I got to worry about is food and a drink and a conversation. Because I'll get a message halfway through the day. Oh, he's tired out, I need to stop at this town. Cool. I get into town before him. I do my laundry, have a shower, find a roof. And chances are, by the time he's walking in, I'm already on my 5th drink or something. So I'm having a grand time.
Man, I want to set up like a little stool, like a table, and run the pod for people walking past.
It's fantastic. I met some characters. The best one, his name was Josie. And he was this Australian...
How did Josie on the pod?
Australian dude with a Spanish wife. And so he'd been walking for a while when I met him. And, like, I met him because I was the only one who was actually willing to go deep into the local towns to find where the locals eat instead of the one spot where all the pilgrims go. And so naturally, like, we play slingshot over the next few days where it's like, hey, see ya, maybe never again, maybe I'll see you tomorrow. So I play slingshot with him for basically a week, and he's definitely, like, this very hermit-looking, alcoholic, as like lucky as you go, vagabond character. But he's telling me this one time that he laid a bank to siege in Bankstown in Sydney.
What? He like robbed a bank?
But he didn't rob it. What happened was there's the bank, and then there's the ATM at the front of the shopping centre.
What a place to steal from the bank, Bankstown.
Yeah, Bankstown of all places.
But it's in the name.
And so, like, this houseless person was wanting to deposit the $20 they had in their account. And the ATM at the front of the shopping centre does 20s, but the ATM in the shopping centre doesn't.
Okay.
Now, it's 50 minimum. And the one at the front's broken. And so he goes in and he just needs enough money to get through the night. And he can't get from the ATM, so he goes into the actual bank and he's like, can I deposit? And the cash, register, the person behind the desk is like giving him a tough time, and it's like, no, we're not going to give it to you. And it's like, it's my money. Even though I'm houseless, it's still my money. And they're like, no.
So he wants to take out?
Yeah, he wants to withdraw from his own account.
Yeah.
And they're not letting him because of the way he presents. And so, old mate Josie, here's a bit of this, and he's not having it. He's not having it at all. And so then he starts harking up and being like, don't worry, mate, I'll deal with this for you. And he starts yelling at this lady and ripping into her. And then security comes over and they're like ripping into him and he's ripping into them. And he's like, that's it. You fuckers need to shut this shit down. What you're doing is illegal. It's his money. He should be able to take it out. Everyone out of the bank.
What?
And so that he makes everyone exit the bank thinking it's like a safety scare. And so...
the security guard?
Security puts it on lockdown protocol, and he's like got the security by his stab vest, and he's like pushing him away, like, get off me, I'm the Robin Hood of the community of Bankstown. And then the police come, but they're undercovers, so that he just thinks they're either people of the local community or more security. And they're like, we're gonna tase you, and they're like, you can fucking do if you want. I've never been tased. You might as well give it a go. But in the meantime, fuck off and give this guy his $20. And they tase him. And he's like, oh, I didn't expect they'd do that. He did ask for it. And so it becomes this whole court thing.
Oh, my God.
And so part of the reason he was doing the Camino was because, one, he's got a Spanish wife, and so after the court case was done, in the end, he got the court case thrown out because the police never identified themselves as police.
No.
They tased him before they identified themselves. So it's like...
It's a big no-no.
It's a big no-no, and he got off.
He could probably get a lot of money for that kind of shit.
His lawyer was more expensive, but the lawyer was like, honestly, you were trying to do a good thing. You're clearly a type of character who's on one with their own mental health problems, which he was very happy to own. And the lawyer was like, you know what? Let me waive like $3,000 off my lawyer fees. Let me buy you your ticket to Spain. It's a bit hot right now. It's better you go to Spain anyway. Go visit your in-laws. Go do the Camino.
To get out of the country.
To get out of the country. And so his lawyer paid for this ticket. And so next thing, he's gone over to Spain. He's with in-laws and he's planting their next weed crop for the year in their back garden and in the little community plot in the middle of their local village. And then he's gone off and walked 1,000 Ks from France to Santiago, and
epic.
Definitely a character.
Get him on the pod.
Or like merchant banker for the 1% of the 1%, but she's the biggest stoner I've met in my life. And she's got a young daughter that's doing the Camino with, and like who's 16, 17, and like learning about their story and like the epic parties she used to throw in the 90s.
Oh yeah.
In like Ontario, and like it was the clash of multiple worlds all coming together. So if you wanted to get interviews, great spot to go. You meet some wild people. Yeah, so it's like, I got this relationship with my dad that's the best it's ever been. I've got my own self-fulfillment, talking to strangers. I've got the spiritual hygiene of connecting with what is my reality of like nature, the world, the silence of it. Then there's the cultural, the food, the drinks, the history. So it's like, I had a great time. It was a great experience. So that's a highlight for sure. Time in Arionga at 11 or something, and like sleeping in a dry creek bed in the middle of the desert, looking up at the stars and being told not to whistle during the night. That was an experience.
Is that for dingoes or something?
No, that's because it goes into the local mythology.
Oh, okay. I was asleep in a bush in the dry river bed, but in Alice Springs a few weeks ago.
Yeah, and like it's beautiful seeing the red center of it. Hey, Alice is its own place.
Yeah.
Alice was eye-opening in the same way that Darwin was pretty eye-opening for how different Australia could be from Melbourne. But all my like true highlights that aren't like these kind of epiphany or like kind of enlightenment moments, which all just go on in my head, they're all about connection to nature for me. And the depth of my relationship with my friends and the people who I consider family. Like, I grew up as an only child, so like seeing my friends as family is like really deep to me. So they're all highlights.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's those small moments that the external nature of it actually can't be wrapped up in some story for a podcast.
No.
The internal feelings, whether it's just a laugh with a friend or a cuddle with a lover or a looking at this leaf and just feeling it's...
And you never know whether that could be the first time you ever experience or it could be the last time you ever experience it. So like for me, if I really want to talk what's a highlight moment, gaining a little bit of consciousness to what's going around me and my life experience and realizing that superficially nothing's that deep. But in the same respect, everything has an incomprehensible depth to it. And just being totally comfortable in that. And being like, okay, I got nothing to do. I've got an hour of wasted time because someone cancelled their plans on me. Endless opportunity. I love every bit of that. In the same respect, if the friend did show up, great, I get to hang out with my friend. And I get to experience everything that they bring to my life. So, yeah.
Nice. Okay, I want to wrap this up because I know you got the time constraints, but
I got to sling cocktails tonight.
nice. What, if any, what dreams of the future are currently bubbling away internally?
Ooh. Like, I talked about vocation a little bit before, and like love for what I do being something I'm still uncovering. That's been more present on my mind, and so it's not so much like what I do, but the feeling of what I want while I'm doing it has been bubbling. Pretty much has been my most ruminated topic for the past year. Being able to, I don't know, do creative practice in this kind of like secluded, isolated space, but at the same time collaborating with other people. And the joy of that, being able to not feel like work is work.
Is there any room to do what out from the outside would seem a very bare bones utilitarian, not creative at all job in your own very creative way?
I feel like that is something that I've been trying to do for the past 6 years. And I need a new approach.
Okay. For instance, how's the bartending, is that shedding any light on potential pathways and perspectives? Because you could teach a monkey to do it, yet it has a lot of humanity, potential for human expression and creativity within it as well.
Well, in one respect, yes, because like my aunt and uncle used to own a restaurant. They're both cooks, and so that's partly where my love for cooking and the restaurant world came from. And, you know, you get a passing comment from someone, whether it's a customer, one of the chefs, maybe it's the owner of the restaurant, where it's like, have you ever considered doing this like seriously? Or you get a compliment being like, I don't know how you talk, but whatever you do is like, you're made for this. Yeah, I've thought about it. But multiplicity is one of the greatest experiences for me in my life, not being in one lane. Like, I've come from this like childhood of wanting to put my like effort into everything and sample everything and touch it all and get a piece of it all. The idea of just doing one utilitarian thing at the current stage of my skill set and my knowledge, not so much. Because like, unless you open multiplicity up by, okay, what does it mean if I could teach someone or apprentice under someone, that's when like you start getting more opportunity. But from where I'm at now, no. But I have been thinking of like, okay, what would be fun? Design and build a theatre stage set, design furniture, work in an interior design studio, do landscape design. How can I design with intent for First Nations communities as a practicable like collaboration? Because that's where most design with First Nations bodies fails, because you actually don't consult or collaborate. Like, how do you get all those opportunities? And at the end of the day, the answer that I've taught myself is it's not through my own isolated efforts, it's branching out, talking to other people, and being a little bit shit at everything in front of everyone for a while.
Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I am in the doldrums of being just a little bit shit of everything and loving it.
Well, thanks for joining the podcast of like being a little bit shit at fun. I know other questions, but is there anything else you wanted to?
Yeah, can I go to the bathroom and fill out that next question?
Yeah, please.
How long do your sessions usually run?
As of late, they've almost all been going over 2 hours, like around that. So we're up to 2:20 right now, which is wild. I mean, fair play if anyone actually listens to it, mate.
Hey, but
I always say that.
Let's talk about your facilitation skills. Yeah, I've known you for a while.
Yeah.
But this has been breezy.
Yeah.
this has been a very easy talking experience. I think your questions are good. And it opened up more doors than I expected going through.
Cool. Well,
So, hey, that's working. But hey, sometimes you need to tell your story a bit more. It's interesting to get all these guests on, but as a host,
I'm hoping that I really like my story. I really like creating it. I enjoy telling it. I don't, maybe what I verbalized for maybe the first time ever of, I think as a young man, we're told that our, not just love, but maybe appreciation for self is selfish. And I think I've definitely been programmed into that. So a way to tell the world my story is via telling everyone else's. Just as I heard a business mentor once say, it's really easy to get rich as you could ever want. Just make a hell of a lot of other people as rich as they want.
yeah.
And you'll get equally.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of how, I'm not really too concerned with money, but I am concerned with my story.
Yeah.
And
Well, also how you frame it is so impactful on how you view yourself.
yes.
So I know if I did what you're doing and I was in this kind of facilitator role, I would end up reframing the narrative probably every interview.
Of your own.
Of my own. I do have some family members and they consider themselves story crafters.
Okay.
Proper narrative tellers. Only thing is that I'm thinking of one particular character, and this is my godmother. She'll tell the same story for 20 years straight, but every rendition of the story is different. Every time it's slightly more elaborated and farther reaching from the true events. But in part, that is also how I've kind of considered, like, okay, if you can do that to embarrass someone at the dinner table, you could also do that to yourself to bolster your own confidence in self. So I think like telling your story and reframing is really important.
I like associating with truth. I don't know if you have anything.
Do you think truth is singular or plural?
I don't know exactly what you mean by that, but
Well, like if you're taking it to this like platonic ideal.
yes, I know.
truth.
Yeah, idea, like the forms and the.
Yeah. A lot of the time, like I feel like we talked about relationships a fair bit in this round. So let's talk in that realm.
Yeah.
A lot of the time when you're in an argument, both people's views are true.
Yes. To them.
To them. And so there is no truth between them. There are co-occurrent and coexistent truths.
Yes.
And throughout your lifetime, what is true of you at one age, you'll have a new truth later on.
Yes, it's interesting you say that because one byproduct I'm noticing, and it's running in the background a bit more, hasn't made itself clear for me to really verbalize and articulate clearly to myself, let alone others. But I can feel it bubbling away, which is something directly from this process of interviewing others, is I'm far more confident in myself and my place in the world, but far less certain of my own rightness. By spending so much time listening and feeling into other people's truths,
Yeah.
it erodes, in a good way, I would say. It takes off the bullshit and skims the fat off what I always held to be my truths. So only what's left is what's useful and valuable for everyone, not the bullshit biases and storylines that maybe serve me in a weird way, but don't serve others. And I really enjoyed that. It's a process of humility, but of acknowledgement of all sorts of truths, maybe.
I get what you mean. Like the more experience you have, the less certain you are in that singularity point.
Yes.
I know for me, because I'm looking towards kind of like which life path do I travel through now? The way which I operate it, because I've like opened the door to extreme uncertainty from wanting to pivot from the path I had selected and run down for the past 6 years. You know you're on your own path when it's the only one you can't see in front of you. Like if I wanted to be a welder, I know every single fucking step I would have to take over the next 20 years to live my life to the fullest extent if I was a welder.
Because it's quite clearly one-dimensional.
Yeah,
your
exactly.
own path, because you are yourself so uniquely individual and multifaceted.
It is the one that disappears the second you start looking at it. And I think in finding the discomfort of being unsure through talking to other people, through trying new opportunities, from leaving a job that doesn't fulfill you or a relationship that doesn't support you, like through all those factors, if you're uncertain, chances are that something better is going to happen than if you know exactly what's going to happen. Uncertainty is a great thing,
That's really cool.
because otherwise you get no opportunity better than what you could expect.
And what's the joy in that?
Yeah, what's the joy in
No
that?
joie de vivre.
No, none at all.
Man, this has been awesome. I feel like I'm so much to not just this peripheral sensation, never of duty or obligation, mind you, but sensation of, yeah, I like Brooks, I care about Brooks, he's a person, he's a character in my field, to fully having, for me, it has really helped getting the full context and story and detail to like properly invest, if that makes sense. That might sound kind of weird.
No, I really appreciate that, because there has been always a proximity with us. But at the end of the day, if I think of how close were we before we left high school, I was like, yeah, we're pretty close because we're the ones that fuck around in Latin, and this guy taught me how to play Minesweeper instead of just randomly clicking buttons. But that's pretty superficial.
Yeah.
And then it was like after, I was like, oh, this man's on a journey, and I can respect that. So I appreciate that it's come back the other way.
Hell yeah.
It's been worth it.
Yeah.
Thanks for the time.
Thank you. Sick.